Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Open Source Office. Once again, my name is Tex. I'm the Open Source Program Manager here at Intersect. Today, I am joined by Vinay from Konma org. I'm also joined by Suganya, one of our developer advocates. Suganya, why don't you tell us some more about Vinay, Konma, and what we're going to hear today?
Hello, everyone. I'm Suganya. I'm a developer advocate at Intersect MBO. Vinay is the founder of Konma Labs. Many of the Cardano community would already be aware of him. Uh, at present, they are developing HaskLedger, which is a project funded by Project Catalyst. We have the demo explained by Vinay. Please take a look at it. And yeah, we are open to questions here, and let's hear from him more.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. So Vinay, we're going to give you the stage here just a little bit, and we'll start with how does Konma, or in this case, HaskLedger Project, contribute to the overall growth and functionality of the Cardano ecosystem? Maybe what specific problem are you aiming to solve for developers and users?
So basically what we are aiming with HaskLedger is to build an embedded domain specific language. And what we are also aiming to do is make this whole thing compatible with, meaning Cardano being compatible with open source hardware. So with the open source hardware and Cardano running on top of it, we can take the use cases to a very edge level where the requirements are, the computation requirements are too high. In the case of IoT devices being deployed for real world use cases. So now what we aim to do is bring in the hardware compatibility, enhancing the formal verification, and a domain specific language that is easier for the developers to develop on Cardano, and which will ultimately compile down to the Plutus code. So that is the aim of this entire project.
Absolutely. So I'm glad to hear you mention that the Plutus piece. So the next question we actually have for you is about that technical integration. So can you describe the technical integration of HaskLedger and with the Cardano blockchain? Like, what components and technologies of Plutus is this leveraging, and how does that all work?
So on the core foundational layer, it is about the RISC-V hardware and the systems on chip, and real-time operating system, NUTX OS is what we are using. And on top of that, it is the virtual machine using Haskell and unikernels for isolation and reducing the attack surface. So making it much more safe. And on top of that, where the whole Plutus part comes in, where we are writing an EDSL that will compile down ultimately to Plutus code. So now we are aiming to imagine we deploying an IoT device for here in India. We are working with the South Indian government, Tamil Nadu government, where we are monitoring the water quality of the. It's more of like a sewage water plant, water treatment plant, and affiliate water treatment plants that these IoTs are deployed in, where the aim is to ensure that the end quality of water is potable. So now for this to happen, it is very important that an IoT is deployed. And now for us to see if we are achieving the goal or there is anomaly in the system is where we are deploying this SOC that is running a subnet. You can say a sidechain or a subnet that is specific to taking in this particular data, computing or acting on it, and what is supposed to go on chain when you are running a Cardano node at a very hardware level. Or a hardware that is right next to an IoT device. It's more of like a edge case that we are trying to do. And all what we are doing will ultimately compile down the Plutus core for sure. So it is basically on one end, the USP that we have, the hardware that we have, and the execution layer that we have, and on other end, adding the Cardano's, I would say, how different is Cardano, a third generation blockchain, a functional programming paradigm that it is taking the whole thing forward with. So our choice of going with Cardano is because of the whole mathematical and functional paradigm.
That's great. Thank you. So noting the complex, or we'll say more simplistically, the stacked layers here, how would you say that you all are able to ensure data reliability, integrity, and security when it comes to even the on-chain and off-chain interactions that HaskLedger is presenting?
So basically, now this comes with the unikernels that we are using. Unikernels are thin clients or which are made for a specific purpose. So now with RISC-V, which is capable now in a proprietary chip like a ARM or x86, it's by default so many instruction sets that run even if you use it or not. But with RISC-V, what we are trying to do is just work on the instruction set that we require for this particular function. Now, from a very foundational level, using just the right instruction set and on top of it running a unikernel, I would say the efficiency or the kind of the efficiency goes up. And now with the Rust being involved in memory safety, you can completely reduce the attack surface. Now the memory is I would say with Rust, the memory side of things is sorted. And with unikernels on a virtualization level, the security is sorted with unikernels. And now on a hardware level, the security is sorted with RISC-V and NATX OS.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for laying that out for us. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I have a question here, Vinay. Yeah, I understand this RISC-V is like an instruction set for
Reduce
computer
instruction set
processors.
architecture.
Okay. Do you have like an analysis of why you are choosing for RISC-V? Do you also have, considered other the same similar structures while building the project?
Yeah. So we've used RISC-V, and we have also worked on Pine 64. As I think Sangeet, since he worked with all this, he had.
Yeah, so we essentially did look into all possible solutions. We looked at like an ARM solution as well as a reduced instruction set architecture. The reason behind risk is two-folded. One, based on the thought process and the technical architecture that I've designed for this whole thing, we kind of want to have these side chains to run very specific or at least very domain-specific requests. Now, when we use a very generalized instruction set architecture, there are a lot of other extra information that we actually don't need. And as you know, this obviously takes up a lot of space and a lot of memory and a lot of processing time to just render one particular output that we are expecting. So using risk, it allows us to, kind of manage the entire hardware and the node to be very specific for one particular requirement. In Vinay's example, it is the sewage treatment plant that we're doing. Another project that we are going to be starting very soon is going to be one with a solar plant. So now there, the instruction set that we're going to use is going to be a little bit different than water metric over here. Although they are unified micrometrics that we are essentially tracking and ensuring it's transparent, immutable, and all the other facts with respect to a decentralized ecosystem. So that's the thought process.
So the idea behind this is now, since we are dealing with governments and governments wouldn't use a public blockchain for sure. So now what is that one extra layer that you would bring that brings in a contained, it's more of like a separate container that you are creating just for that particular domain or that particular use where the government's data is going into it.
I see. Thank you.
And getting processed at a very edge level.
So this all definitely sounds like quite the project that you guys are working on here. And take this maybe in a slightly different direction. Is there anywhere else that you all from Konma are contributing as far as open source projects? Or if we take this to the HaskLedger side, do you have your own policy on open sourcing this code?
So that is the transition that we are on right now, where till now what we have built is done by Konma last few months. I would say started in last March. Till date, there's good amount of work that already we've like put in from our end. Now it is about making this an open collective. So Konma contributes, now the rest of the Cardano community contributes to like take this whole initiative forward.
And then the last part of that, I apologize, kind of like a heavy question is are there any dependencies that you all rely on or that HaskLedger relies on?
So right now it's basically positioned to be a general purpose solution. Now, based on all the requirements or how Cardano essentially works, there might be a small bit of tips here and there that we're looking to solve. And some of those is we are very much reliant on the Ouroboros consensus. What it says essentially delivers what we can do. The second part is the smart contract layer, be it either Plutarch or Plutus or anything that even would come in the future. Although we are trying our best to make it backwards compatible with any kind of new scope that comes up, it's a little hard for us to say right now that it'll 100% work. And we would only know if there's like ample tests done. So as of now, yeah, I guess the infra level elements that Cardano gives is a factor of dependency for us. Again, only if you're going to put this on Cardano. And with respect to the open source development side of things, Konma Labs does venture into a lot of other chains. We are primarily on the Ethereum virtual machine and Cardano right now. So we have had few playbooks and few documentations and few libraries that's gone out on the EVM side. And we can't wait to do the same here.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. We'll keep it moving, but we'll take it back a little bit here as well. And so you guys are talking about now moving into solar aside from like the water treatment. So what does the scale look like here as far as increasing transaction volume, or how exactly do you all scale from your current utility or use cases?
So basically here the idea is to like, so Konma has been building a solution called Carbon Ledger. A Carbon Ledger is a carbon management protocol where anything that involves environmental impact, so is basically being tracked on chain. So all the green projects that people develop, be it sewage treatment or solid waste management or anything that avoids carbon from entering into the environment. So all these till date now, if you see the carbon markets that we talk about, the emergency, the global climate emergency that we are facing, and since the systems are not right, the double spending is there in that particular sector. Now people generate carbon credits and sell multiple times. Now to avoid all this, we need to bring in IoT, AI/ML, and blockchain to a very decentralized or a hyper local level. So where the IoT tracking has to be on chain at a very hyper local level so that people cannot manipulate these values. So it is the IoT that measures, it is the AI/ML that processes, and whatever has to like go on chain has to go on chain, giving a status update on that particular system. Either an anomaly is detected or the goal is achieved. So these are the two things that these systems are tuned for, where we will be able to deploy Carbon Ledger. Now it's Faizan and Rahat who is working on Carbon Ledger, and it is basically a ledger that supports these green projects track their carbon reduction or their goals or whatever on chain. So it's not confined to one green project. It is basically a climate tech product that we are building where an individual or an enterprise or a government can track and trace their or calculate, track and trace their carbon emissions and the offsets.
Ideally, it's just a protocol-driven solution that anyone can come on board. Again, it's open source, so the tangents at which we can produce this into much better versions is also 100% open.
And so a target audience here would be like environmentalists or environmentalist developers, right?
For Carbon Ledger as a use case on HaskLedger, but you will be able to like bring a similar ledgers in every other sector.
That's
So
awesome.
the
Thank you.
SoC that we mentioned, the systems on chip, is specific to now for Carbon Ledger, it is specific to saving the environment or doing the environmental tracking. Now the same SoC deployed in a medical industry, it is going to have a different standardizations. So each of the industry, based on the standards, the SoCs are going to be different.
Correct. But ultimately, they all do the same thing. There's a point of authentication on the blockchain. There is tracking on the blockchain. And there is also a point of enumeration on the blockchain. So the three main key metrics that we are hosting at these kind of situations is what we're planning to put. And all of them would ultimately piggyback on HaskLedger. And variants of said HaskLedger would have, let's say, some intrinsic features that's only meant for this particular domain.
Good stuff. We talked maybe a little bit about this here and there. Has Konma, has HaskLedger, collaborated with any other, collaborated or provided support to any other open source projects? Any other integrations than the actual use cases that we've talked about?
So actually, this particular project is a general purpose product that he have been built. Meaning, HaskLedger is something that we got funded last Fund 11 and I would say like last year. But it's been 3 years since this particular project started as an open source initiative by a developer called Samir. So he kickstarted this as a open source and a general purpose solution. And once we had, so this contains a lot of things, meaning multiple layers. So what we thought is, now since Cardano uses Haskell, why don't we bring in or we develop HaskLedger on top of already existing code? So now since it is been going as an open source initiative, now Konma is taken this particular repository to build HaskLedger. And I would say now people contributing to that particular general purpose solution and using it for their own purposes. It's under a general public license or a GNU license. So I think anybody would be able to like use it for their own purposes.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. So let's look at the future here just a little bit in terms of roadmap, development, future plans. How else are other contributors going to be able to come in and continue to develop, and in what ways do you all have planned to grow right now?
So with what we have right now, our next thing would be what we've been working is not still like put out, but we want to do that transition of it being, it's open source, but never put out for the public to like take a look at it or never spoke about it. Now we want to bring it as an open source, it's an open collective where already existing developers plus Konma org, and now making sure that this particular project gets better visibility in Cardano ecosystem. So the wider developer community can involve with this project is something that we are aiming at right now, but primarily enhancing the formal verification, compatibility with multiple open source hardwares are something that we are aiming at right now.
Sangreed, anything else to add?
Just to
I'm
touch
also
upon that, basically we brought in, I'm so sorry, Shivan, go ahead.
no problem. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, just to touch upon what Vinay said, like he mentioned, this right now is the general purpose side of things that we're working on. We have the infra solution that Cardano is obviously blessed enough to give us. What we are trying to do is the protocol layer, and then comes the application layer, which will essentially just open the entirety of the Cardano community to come and build on. So right now, even if we were to make this completely public, there isn't much use cases that we can produce right now. So we have this particular milestone that we're working on currently. And as soon as this is done, we should start seeing all the applications or the decentralized applications come on.
So the first use case that we will be testing is this particular project that the water project that we are working with the government.
Gotcha.
So showing that as a use case and what we are actually building, we want to take it forward for the community to like visualize on how they can use it.
Right. So you have, practical implementation already in place. I'm like a bit curious to know if you're planning to build a talent pool around the tech stack you're using, because some of the tech stack, HaskLedger uses is not familiar to me. But how do you try to bridge that gap between a technical and a non-technical audience?
So this was a very tough thing for us. So the risk management factor here was to like find the talent pool in Risk 5. Risk 5 being something that is not very widely used, but luckily it is IIT Madras that has a microprocessor lab called Shakti Lab. Again, IIT Madras is pretty famous when it comes to Indian tech scenario. So they support us with the hardware side of things, and the talent pool is coming from there for the hardware. And now we have Chennai Mathematical Institute, which teaches. Chennai Mathematical Institute is a research institute for mathematics and computer science. So we have the talent pool being built for the infrastructure development. Now, the kind of talent pool that we build as a part of our Fund 7 proposal was to teach people Haskell and Plutus and any other library that helps us build solutions on Cardano. So that is how Faizan or Rahat or any of these first set of developers got into the ecosystem. Now we are training people or students from these colleges to participate in this particular research on a very infrastructure level.
Awesome. Anything else that we'd like to add here before we close this out for today? All right. Well, if nothing else, we'll give a big thank you here to Vinay and obviously the entire team from Konma.org. A super big thank you to Suganya as well for bringing us a project to Spotlight. And we'll catch you all next time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Suganya. Thank you, Tex. I would say now, since Cardano is at a very crucial point of time right now, the Voltaire is kicked in, Intersect is taking things forward, and I would say at this point of time that we are bringing this whole thing out, and we feel really happy that we are able to, like, at this point of time, actually bring a product that would bring in, I would say, like, a very use case based, a hyper local level impact is what we want to create with both this open source software and hardware that we have in our hand.
You bet. Well, thanks for being a part of helping us drive utility.
Great work, Vinay and team. HaskLedger, I think it's an ambitious and well thought out project that addresses many of the issues that include this platform. So I wish you guys all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Suganya. Thank you, Tex.
Thank you, guys.